What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining Nick and I here today for the Players' Championship. Before we get into all of our favorite fades, plays, and opinions from this week's event, I do very quickly want to talk to everyone a little about Underdog Fantasy, how you can take advantage of their sign-up bonus, drafts higher and lower options, their rival contests. There's a ton of great stuff going on over there, Nick. You can sign up with the code BGP to get a 100% match bonus of up to $100. Also, Nick, as everybody can tell that's tuning into the show right now, we have decided to do this live today for the Players' Championship because it's such a big event. So I know both of us want to thank Win Daily Sports, Jason Mizrahi, for letting us stream this over on their Win Daily platform. You can check out all of the stuff that they have going on for TPC Sawgrass. I was on their draft cast last night. I think the entire site is buzzing with content for everything that they're doing, but this is an exciting move for us, Nick, trying to do this show live.
Yeah, first time live. I got a beer here as well to all the NFL diehards out there. That's usually what we did. So cheers to that. But yeah, honestly, I have a ton of questions for you. I'm taking the stance on fading Scotty Scheffler. I kind of hate it, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. Do you have anything new on the betting card? I know we did our show on Action Network. The only thing I added was Cam Davis to win at 100-1. You're going to hate that bet too. So I kind of hate every bet I've made besides the Finau one, but we know how Finau has treated us in the past financially. So again, take that with a grain of salt. But DFS wise, I am excited. Yeah, I'm excited. If you guys got questions, fire away, or any comments, or tell us to pound sand, whatever you want to do. We are all for it. But other than that, Spencer, I'm ready to go down the board. Also, I think I'm going to change my one and done to Rory. Is that a terrible move? I feel like I need a splash. Everybody that just used Scotty is probably going to use Will Zalatoris or Victor Hovland, and I had Victor prior, and now I'm off Victor Hovland, so I don't know. I was going to save Rory for Augusta, but I have Scotty still in the chamber. Maybe I use him at Augusta. I don't know what to do, to tell you the truth. I don't love Max Homa as much as you do. I like him, but I don't love him. I don't think I want to use him in one and done.
To me, there were a handful of options. And to answer the first part of your question, I did add one final bet to my card. It's a very minimal card in general, but I took Christian Bezuidenhout minus 125 over Ricky Fowler in a matchup. That's very fringe on whether that's value or not. Some of the extended data that I ran, though, pushed us a little bit further. My model seemed to believe that Ricky Fowler was one of the biggest overachieving players at TPC Sawgrass in the past. We've obviously seen the high-end success that he's provided there. It's been a little bit more up and down in recent years, with last year kind of catapulting back up on the totals that he was posting. But I don't know. This is just a golfer to me that is trending in the wrong direction right now. So trying to figure out a way to get exposure against Fowler. I think Bezuidenhout is a good target in a lot of areas. So
I like Bez.
Yeah, so I think that's the only other bet that I haven't talked about anywhere that I have. I think one and done contests are very intriguing this week. Biggest purse of the season. By the way, I think Spieth is a one and done pick. I saw that just pop up in the chat. Like, I like Spieth at 40-1. That was one of the bets that I placed early in the week. I also think he's an intriguing one and done candidate. I think some people are going to go in with the mentality that they're going to go a little bit too far off the radar with their pick. And yes, there's a lot of volatility at the end of the day, but we're still talking about the biggest purse in golf. You're going to need to get this correct if you actually want to win a lot of your one and done contests. So I'm not dipping further than, a top 25 player, give or take. Like Finau would probably be the bottom end of a name that I would be trying to consider of what it is. But I mean, you and I burned him 2 weeks into the year. So that's
I regret nothing.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I wish I had is the ability to use him about 10 times. I could probably get a proper payday if I did it that way.
Yeah, one time it'll eventually work out. Yeah, Jordy at 40-1. I dig it. My numbers have him at 37-1 as proper for my shop if I were to open one. So yeah, anytime it's Jordy. I love Jordy. But here's my thing on Rory, and I guess this is kind of move into the DFS side of things. Like, I know it's not good. You think of the price, you think of the player, but he is not hitting the irons well at all. And he's still hanging around T20. Like, he's one of the best scramblers on the PGA Tour, in my opinion. If those irons spike just a little bit, and he's hitting a ton of fairways too. So it's like, if the irons just wake up, I know like the mold here is like find iron great iron players, great ball strikers in general that are in good form. And Rory certainly does not check the in form box. But, dude, if they just wake up a little bit, is it that crazy that he could run down Scotty?
No, I mean, I don't think it's crazy that any of these guys could run down Scotty. We have a very volatile course with.
Very true.
There's a boomer bust mentality here. I guess my biggest concern with Rory just comes down to some of these approach metrics that we've seen in 2024. He is outside, and I've talked about this on whether we did links and locks together at really any podcast or article that I've written. Yeah, there are so many corollary trends from players that can scramble and have the weighted proximity that I'm looking for between 0 to 150 yards. Rory in those ranges in 2024, 98th from within 100 yards, 100th from 100 to 125, 127 from 125 to 150. I think he loses one of his great strengths that he does have of his long iron proximity here. The par 5 scoring, some of that maybe he can salvage. And that's why we saw him win this event. Like if he puts the pieces together. I mean, and here's the thing with Rory that I will say that may be a benefit to him. I don't know if you've seen all the reports. I'm sure you have. I've heard that this is going to be the softest TPC Sawgrass version we've ever gotten with this course. That the venue right now is just soaked and wet, and that is typically where Rory thrives, is where you can finally use some of that distance back into play, and the long iron plays come back into the mix with it. So if this does play as a soft TPC Sawgrass and this winning score increases more into that, I mean, like 20 under par type of range, like Rory can win that type of tournament more than if this plays challenging and it starts getting speedy and fast.
For sure. All right, let's start on the DFS talk. 10,000 and above, Victor Hovland and Scotty Scheffler garnering all the ownership. I know I said I'm going to fade Scotty. I wouldn't recommend it. When I was fading him, I was seeing ownership projections of 35 to 38 range, which is still crazy high. But the thing that I don't like is what it does to the rest of your lineup. Like you play him, and I've had a lot of people kind of text their lineup, even like my old boss, like guys that don't play are playing DFS this week. And that's probably par for the course because you see like even the $5 MME now is $100K prize instead of $50K. Like the pools are much bigger. There's a lot of random people that are going to come in, which is great for the game of golf. Like people are going to watch the players. Maybe new DFS people are born after this week. So I'm all for it. I'm all for growing the game of PJ DFS. So I don't know. I'm just not in, like, obviously Scotty is the best player in the world and could certainly walk backwards and win this event by 5 again. But 12-8, do you know what his salary was last year?
If you give me a second, I can give you the answer. I mean, it's going to be substantially lower than that just because we have now moved this down into $5,000.
Yeah, I was going to say they didn't have that last year either. So maybe it is like relative to the salary cap similar to last year. I'm sure it's maybe a little bit higher because obviously his form is absolutely incredible and all the buzz off of making putts great. So one great weekend of making putts. I don't know. I think you said it best. The volatility of the course, I'm okay with just rolling the dice. But for full disclosure, I'm not maxing out the Millie Maker. I think my decision would be significantly different if, you know, my risk out there is 5x what it would be maxing out the $5 tournament. So for me, playing the $5 tournament, it's been a really good year for me in that. Last couple of weeks have not been very good. So again, like I don't want to have to push my risk this week to go chase $1 million. Like the old me probably would have done that. And this year I'm just kind of saying like, I want to have 5x the bankroll to go take a Millie Maker, like to go after that. So, and again, like my historic success has never really been at the players. I've always done very well for some reason at the Open Championship. Obviously we know the heartbreak of what happened there. And I've talked about it too many times, but even the year before that and the year before that, like the Open Championship has been very good to me. I've always been very good for the most part at Augusta National. So like, I'd rather go chase those Millie Makers and assuming that I keep growing my bankroll until then. So I'm not playing the $25 Millie Maker, like maxing it out. I'm sure I'll hand build like 5 just because why the fuck not? But so for me, only risking $5 a lineup at 150, Scotty Scheffler fading, like I'm okay. If I lose everything and it's whatever the entry is, $750, like to me, that's fine or whatever. Like you should just know what your bankroll is, what contest you're going into, and are you okay if things just go completely belly up? Just like DFS personal advice. So to me, if I lose everything that week with Scotty, fading Scotty, I could sleep at night. If it was a $25 Millie Maker and that is 5x my entry, like, of course not. Like, I wouldn't fade Scotty because I need to play some sort of defense. I would play probably 30% Scotty in that situation. So, having said that, I also don't love the lineups it gives you when you're paying that much for Scotty. I don't love a lot of the guys in the 5K range. I've heard a lot of different podcasts, and it seems like all of them are talking about like the same 5 guys, and a lot of groups are going to have
every
one.
week.
Yeah, and it's like they're going to have one or two $5,000 guys and like 2 $6,000 guys. Like, to me, fuck that. I'd rather, like, even if Scotty does win in all these scrubs that, scrubs in their pricing, like, don't do that well. I don't think you need Scotty as the outright winner to win in DFS. I think when I don't know him personally. I've seen him at the live final a couple times for NFL, but I think Big T, when he won his Millie Maker at the Players, I don't think he had the outright winner. Correct me if I'm wrong if you guys know him and follow along his stuff, but I don't think that was the case. So, like, I'm not afraid of him winning, and I'm not afraid of all the stars and scrubs running up the leaderboard with Scotty Scheffler. So I'm fine taking the 12K or $1,200 hit to go to Rory. Rory's going to be like 10% owned. So what are your thoughts on Rory? We don't need to talk about Scotty. People can play him or not play him. But let's start with Rory.
I mean, personally, I'm out on Rory this week. It just goes back to the proximity numbers that I talked about. To trickle back to the first question, Nick, Scotty was the third price player on DraftKings last year, 10,600. Rom was 11,800. Rory was 11.
Well, that's sexy, man. So that's a whole bit. So he's $2,000 more and only $1,000 more in the salary cap. So, or not the salary cap, but in the available tiers of players. That's fantastic. So, I don't think it's the same situation. So I'm out on Scotty. I get your thoughts on Rory. Again, my position is, if I only need 15% to be 1.5x the field in my MME contest, which is kind of my goal, I want to be 1.5 to 2x overweight in these players, so I do have some sort of leverage if they do well. If I have to have 15% Rory in my MME, I think I'm fine with that. And then Xander, I always love Xander. He's been a letdown all year long. Pick. But Xander's 10% too, 10 to 12. So if I go 15 and 15 on both of those guys, that makes up for Scotty being right around 30% anyway. And I don't think that Scotty is 3x as likely to finish top 5 as Rory and Xander is, which is pretty much what I look at that decision. If he's 3x the ownership, obviously price being a whole different part of this conversation, but 3 times as likely to finish top 5, I don't think that that's the case. Maybe 2, maybe 1.5x, but not 3.
I think we've lost some of the narrative here with this ownership percentage. This is a hefty price tag for all the reasons that we just talked about, Nick. This is also the most volatile course in the world. I know I've used those words about 100 times this week on podcasts, but take away his victory last year, miscut in 2021, 55th in 2022, the win last year. Even if you look at the historical trends of players that have been winning, take Justin Thomas, victory, 33rd, 60th. Rory, victory in 2020, miscut, 33rd, miscut. These were also golfers at the time that were viewed as maybe they're not Scotty Scheffler with the ball striking that they're necessarily producing, but a 30% owned player on this course, Scotty might win. That's the risk that you're going to have to live with, like you talked about. But from a game theory perspective, I just can't do it. And it also comes down to a fact, Nick, that I love the $9,000 range. There are so many players there that I would just rather get a little bit more exposure to and try to attack the Scotty Scheffler train that's going to be 30% in that fashion.
Yeah, for sure. Which is what you can't really do if you're playing Scotty. If you do play someone in the 9s, then you're playing those low 6 and $5,000 scrubs that we already talked about, which everybody's writing about those guys. So again, I feel like everybody's line of construction is going to be very similar when they choose Scotty because the price dictates it. Anybody else in the 10K range, like, dude, Victor Hovland, I'm seeing for 20% ownership. I think I'm fucking out on Victor Hovland.
If he's going to be 20%, I'm out also. I've seen pictures of him struggling with certain portions of his game and trying to find stuff. And that's kind of been the mentality that we've seen from him for the past couple of weeks. So I was on the fence to begin with what to do with Hovland. So it's going to be an out for me based off of that. I do want to have the Justin Thomas conversation just because
I love
think
JT.
I know you do, and I'm probably on the opposite end of the spectrum there with Thomas this week. I think there's a lot, and so the last 4 years that I've built my model for the Players Championship, Justin Thomas, and this is a very infrequent answer because it's always either Scotty or it was always Rory or it was always Dustin, like before that, in every single way that I would build models. Like it was always going to be those players. Thomas was number one for me at the Players Championship in 3 straight years of building this model, just for his expected performances at this track. You've seen it historically with him. 8 consecutive made cuts at this course. He's been the safest person, even when you threw him into the wins in 2022 when he was trying to defend his title. He goes bogey-free 69 on Friday to make the weekend after everybody in that wave got completely decimated. And, if it wasn't for a poor weekend performance, he was right in the thick of that to win that event. I don't know if Thomas is as back as some of the projections would lead you to believe. Maybe this is my model just basing things from too long-term of a perspective. If you run it from a shorter time frame, your model or numbers are going to like him. But this is one of the worst returns I've ever gotten from Thomas, and it just really stems from a lot of these proximity numbers. Thomas's irons got really bad in 2023, and now they're starting to come back together, and that's where it's like, I don't believe that my model is correct in how low it has him, but this is an extremely tough course for any sort of predictability year in and year out. And if I have question marks still about where Thomas is, and if we're going to get all this ownership on now on top of it, I think there's a reason why, and you've seen it correct itself a little bit, but I think there's a reason why he's been an underdog in most situations. I think a lot of public money has come in on him to move it. I would not say that's sharp movement.
People love him. Yeah.
People love him. He's one of the most bet players in the outright market. He's getting bet in all these matchups, but like I like Hovland over him, even with all the dislike that I have for Hovland this week. There's a million other matchups that we could run down this board with where he is either a slight favorite or a slight underdog that I like the opposite side. I was hoping on a non-pinnacle book, I was going to be able to find a Max Homa matchup. That's kind of the route I wanted to go. I didn't see that matchup, unfortunately. So I don't have a pure Justin Thomas fade in the head-to-head sector, but I'm going to be out this week on DraftKings and for DFS contests. And that's going to be one of the ways that I guess I try to get different is when I remove Scheffler, Rory, Thomas at the very top, and then I go super overweight to the Xanders and all these players in the 9,000s. I think it's just a very unique build that's going to be constructed that way.
Okay. JT out. What is your ownership you're seeing? I'm seeing 10. Pretty much everybody 10 besides Scotty Scheffler up here.
I see 16.5.
Oh, okay. Which makes sense to me. I don't think it's going to go down at all because everybody's writing about him. To me, like at the surface, I think the form's solid. I think, obviously the course history is a mixed bag pretty much for everybody because it's volatile. Scrambling, I think he's one of the best scramblers on the PGA Tour. So I do like that part about him. I do think he was a little too expensive. I feel like 10-6 for him may be a little too much. It's the priced in version of him at the Players Championship. If you put this tournament somewhere else, I think he's probably once again in that like 9-9 range that he's been almost every single week. All right. Speaking of then 9-9, what is the ownership you have for Will Zalatoris? Because on the Action Pod yesterday, I was leaning out because I was seeing close to 20. Now I'm seeing sub 15.
I have 15 and a half.
I may lock button him. Are you okay with that?
I like him more than Wyndham Clark.
Yeah, I'm out on Wyndham, and I'm probably out on Hideki. I think it's a little too expensive for Hideki.
I would agree.
I never get the whole injury head fake for Hideki ever, right? But I don't think I'm paying $9,800 for Hideki, and still, like his Sunday round was, I think it was really bad. Let me pull up the Arnold Palmer real quick.
Nick, as you're trying to find that, we've said this.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, Sunday was bad. 50th in approach, so I know the weather was bad too, but was he out early? No, he was out late, so he did have some bad weather. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Put him out.
We've said this before with Hideki. There's a much different viewpoint to be had when Hideki is $8,000.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you bake in all of this recent form that he's put together, and there's a lot to like about it. You throw him up to 9,800. This is one of these golfers historically. I understand he just won at the Genesis, but this is a golfer historically who has a lack of win equity in a lot of these spots. Won the Masters too. He's done some great things throughout his career. It's not every single time, but there are a lot of moments where he becomes popular. He moves all the way up the board in the price tag. The ownership follows, and he disappoints. So I think he's too expensive for that reason more than anything. I am out. I am out on Wyndham. I am out on. I'm probably going to be out on Zalatoris.
Dude, I see Max Homa as a 20-point favorite to him at Bovada. So I don't mind Bovada. I think they move with good money. So
I think they move with any money, but
what can you say bad about Zalatoris? Because the Prox has to be fucking amazing. He's actually scrambling this year. He's hitting fairways. The putter is always going to be sketchy, but he's gaining strokes putting. Shout out to Lab putters. But I don't like his tee to green grades 5th for me in expected strokes tee to green.
I think he gets worse, in my opinion, if this course plays softer.
There we go. Yeah, good question.
I hate the around the green metrics at the end of the day. This is another spot where a month ago, Zalatoris was, I mean, what was Zalatoris like at the Genesis even? Like
55, 60?
I mean, it was something that was super like, like that's my thoughts on this. So it's like now we've gotten this price surge with him also where there is still ownership. Like even at 15, 16.
Is it a price surge though? Is it a price surge? 9,900?
I think marginally
he could win.
I don't think he should be more. And we're nitpicking here, but I also think you have to nitpick to an extent when you're trying to narrow down a player pool. I'm not as opposed to him as I would be to the Justin Thomases of the world here, but I think he should be like 93 to 9,500 and have less ownership. Like really, if we're really being serious about this, but I don't know. I am just so bullish on 4 players in this range, and maybe that's where I'm getting this like.
I know who it is, and he's cheaper, and he is a fucking huge favorite to the whole world. And his ownership is not bad right now. I see Max Homa at 12.
Yeah, I love Homa. I love Spieth from a contrarian standpoint. I like.
What do we do with Morikawa? 22%.
Market loves him.
I'm out.
I think I am out also. I never get him correct though. That's kind of always the one thing I try to preface it with, that if I don't play Morikawa, he seems to do well, and when the opposite happens, it goes in the reverse. But I don't know. I'd rather play Sam Burns. Like I'm really high on Sam Burns this week. I think we'd be in a completely different spot with his perception if he didn't fire a 78 on Sunday at the Arnold Palmer. So that is my way that I'm going to try to get very unique, because I'm just going to be extremely aggressive on those 4 players, specifically probably Max Homa there. There are so many factors that my model likes about him. I mentioned this yesterday on Links and Locks. I've written about it in articles too, but that 0 to 150 in the scrambling range, that has been the biggest corollary for success of high-end success that my model could find. Scotty number 1 last year, Thomas number 1 during the year he won it, Max Homa number 1 this year. I think he's trending in the right direction with the form. I know some of the counting stats that you want to look at have been not exactly what you would want to see with his approach game, but because I do have that heightened increase in my model from 0 to 150 yards, that's kind of where my model is really shooting him up further than the projections would be normally, inside the top 5 from that range. So I think Homa is low owned and a very savvy play.
Love it. I'm with you on Homa. Homa and Harmon are too nuggety. I don't know what that means. Players starting to show a bit of form, but then both. Yeah, I know you like Harmon. We'll get to that range. But yeah, Spencer, in all defense of him, has been on Max Homa since Monday morning when I woke up, which Lord knows what time that is in Vegas. So all week he's been on him. So anybody else, like Shane Lowry, looks a little too expensive for me, but he's kind of just playing really, really well. 9,100. seems okay for a guy that could top 10. I think that 10th is probably his peak. I don't think Shane Lowry can win here. I know he's had fantastic course history, and to me, he's just hitting the ball really well. And again, the ownership's not bad. Again, like everybody's going to play Kyle Morikawa. So also thing for me, I can't handicap him worth a shit, but I'm going to say it. I'm a pussy. I will not fade Ludwig. There's just something about him that I just believe in. His swing is so beautiful. I try to mock it myself, but 15 years of trying to play golf, my swing probably just is what it is. It is St. Patrick's Day for Shane. Great point, Edward. That's a narrative I would not have even thought of. So
is that a good thing?
Probably, right? I don't know.
He's gonna be plastered on the course.
No,
that guy can drink better than anybody else.
I could hang with him, I think, but he's getting too old for that. He's got kids and stuff, doesn't he? Probably.
Here's my thoughts about Lowry, and maybe it's more of an indictment against Wyndham Clark than anything. Have you seen where the market has moved with Lowry versus Clark?
I have Lowry up. I did have Lowry up. I have Morikawa up, and you're not lying. Everybody likes him. I see Bet365 still has that minus 110 aside, so that's a joke. Bet Online minus 144, and FanDuel and Caesars I don't really care about, but yeah, they're moving too. Yeah, massive favorite over Wyndham Clark, which is for me, like, I don't want to just live and die by market movement. But when I was looking to fade Wyndham Clark and I saw that he's a dog, everybody, I'm cool.
I think this is something that's worth talking about because we discussed it a lot on the show. Market movement is not the end be all end all answer to that. That is not what either of us are doing. They are deal breakers, though, and tiebreakers in some of these spots.
Yes.
If I am trying to find a reason to fade Wyndham Clark to begin with, and my model is wherever it is on a certain player, Bookmaker has Shane Lowry minus 170 against Wyndham Clark. Like, to me, that's just, I'm out on Clark. If I couldn't make a decision, doesn't mean I'm going to play Shane Lowry now all of a sudden because of that reason. And I'm probably going to be out even with that being all of this being said. But I think he's okay with the form that he's presented recently. And some of any models that you run are going to find problems with him if you run it for too long a term duration of a time. I'm running things for too long of a duration of time. So Lowry gets a big hit. If I ran this for the last 12 rounds, I'm sure he'd be inside the top 10 of my model all of a sudden.
Yeah, which is what I don't do that recency bias, but I'm heavier on the recency bias than long term. So cool with that. Cameron Young, yes or no? Quick answer. Probably yes.
Not that
right?
quick. I guess probably yes. Probably because of his ball striking. Yes.
Okay, so you're in on Will Zalatoris, then, if that's your reasoning.
I think it's a completely different situation with the price and the ownership, though.
True. Jason Day. Well, let's go below 9K here.
I
think he's overpriced, but he's playing good golf, and I know that's your boy. So
he's been good here too. He's been great here over the years.
Great scrambler.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why. There were 3 players for me that my model thought were a value, like just on its surface level of that answer: Henley, Siwoo Kim, Ben-On.
Chalk.
Yes, and I think that's why it's very natural with that answer. For me, I'm probably going to get rid of Ben-On. Yep. I'm going to keep Henley and Siwoo just so I don't play all 3 of the chalkiest names there. I like your mentality with Finau. The ball striking numbers are great. It's the same answer that we're talking about with Scotty Scheffler every single week, just at like the B-level version of it. If he could ever make putts, the upside is massive. And this is a different spot with Finau than we usually get. Like, if Finau's 9,700 in this tournament, it's the same answer with Hideki here, where I'm probably out. But all of a sudden now, if you throw him in this mid $8,000 range, he does have the upside to produce. So I am fine with anybody who wants to consider Finau there. I don't know, though. Like, Cameron Young at 9,000 is probably one of like the more intriguing pivot routes to take on. Outside of that, I'm probably below market everywhere else. I'm okay with people that want to play Connors. I understand it.
Cash game for me. That's it. I think I'm out in MME.
I think he's also a better cash game target for that reason. So I am also probably out there. I mean, if we want to talk about pure upside, I do think there's an intriguing name here.
Hold on. Let me try to guess. I'm playing Tommy Fleetwood. I talked about that on Action. I think Russell Henley, I'll probably be like 5x the field. I think it's just a fair price for a very good player. And I don't expect him to win, but I think he's got a very high probability of finishing top 10 in my numbers. Corey Connors, I believe I'm out on. I think he's a great cash game play. He's probably a great tournament play too, just as like a filler. It's a fair price, but I just wonder what the upside really is with him. Tom Kim is going over like 12% ownership now. I think I'd be out there. Siwoo, I'm fading. I know that that's not a popular answer. I would play him in cash. I think the three guys that you mentioned, Ben On, Siwoo, Russell Henley, for sure in my cash game lineup. I don't hate Matt Fitzpatrick. I've never got this guy fucking right in my life, and that was going to be my guess, Matt Fitz.
So I think this, and I think you bring up a good point there with what you just talked about. This $8,000 section, for the most part, is probably better cash game options than they are GPP targets. There's negative trajectory in my model for upside for almost all of these players, even if it's only slight between Henley and Siwoo. That's one of the reasons why I'm fine keeping them in, because they have the safety profile, and plus they're neutral when it looks for upside there. So I do think those two are good plays, but pretty much every other name, Ben On included in that mix, has this negative trajectory for upside and then the positive for the safety markets. And those are always better cash game plays. There were three options on this board in the $8,000 range that did not have that profile. And I think these are the three intriguing ones if you are trying to get a little bit different here. Tommy Fleetwood, you talked about him.
Yep, I'm in.
Tony Finau, you mentioned him. Sahith Theegala. I think Theegala has some really interesting upside metrics that you can point towards. I only see the ownership right now at 7%.
Yeah, I have less.
Yeah, and I actually think you will be right that will be less than that.
I think I did cut him. I'll add him back in. Right now, all my lineups, because they're dummies, I didn't have time to finish my MME, and I wanted to talk to you first, but I went 100% Steve Stricker. So now I know, like, on my CSV, when I just control find Steve Stricker, or I'll keep him. I don't know, Stricker, old wily vet. All right, Theegala. I had a hard time debating on him because I love the ownership. Yes, I think he has upside that can go top 5 at.
Every time I get this answer from Theegala, and I also receive that is for sure. And then anytime I've received this positive movement for him in my weighted proximity that's been this large, maybe not quite as big of a move as we saw at the Fortinet when he won that tournament, but one of the biggest movers in my model in projected proximity for TPC Sawgrass over his baseline projection. So anytime we've gotten that answer for a golfer that is one of the best scramblers, there's a lot to like.
Did you boys coordinate outfits today? David, no. I'm wearing navy blue. He's wearing black. Maybe. I didn't talk to Spencer about our outfits today. Maybe we should have. What about Fitz?
It's like good cop, bad cop with you with the white hat and me with the black hat.
Yeah, I got my hood up too, like, ready to go into the boxing ring, which probably wouldn't have much success in a boxing ring, but game day. I'm excited. Minwoo Lee.
I've made this argument this week, Nick. I think he's a better play here than he was last week at the price tag. I still don't know if I'm going to necessarily get to him, but this to me is a better spot than we had.
Okay. I'm in. I like him. I see sub 10%. He's I don't want to say willing Rory into existence, but if Rory just gets the irons going, Minwoo Lee for some reason is struggling on the greens, which historically is the best part of his game, if not getting up and down with the wedge. His irons are in form, so bet on the come for that putter to get back to the baseline, and I think that is also a guy like Theegala. Again, when I'm playing GPPs, I'm looking for guys like, can they top 5 in this price range? I think he certainly could. And Siwoo, I'm just out on because of course volatility. I'm not playing a guy that's 20% owned as much as I love Siwoo. I was all over Siwoo last week when he was like 3% owned. The rest of my players kind of sucked, but Siwoo came through for me a little bit. Brian Harman, I'm seeing less than 10%. I thought he'd be 20% owned. I thought he'd be right there with Siwoo. But again, I guess when you play Scotty and you play Corey Connors and you probably play Russ,
it's roster construction that's pushing him out.
Yeah, just can't. So Brian Harman, I think fantastic play. Nothing, and I fucking hate Brian Harmon. If you guys know me and know this show, and of course, like it's probably gonna just shit the bed, but I will take the bait that he found his iron play last week. I think all 4 rounds were fantastic for him. It's a great course for him. He's had, I'm not a course history whore by any means, but it's just a little plotter's course for little old 5'1" Brian Harmon. Fuck, I hate just even thinking about him just waddling around the course, but sub 10%. I will be in. I will take him over Siwoo Kim, and I will take Minwoo Lee. Combined, both of those guys have less ownership than Siwoo Kim, so that's kind of my route, is one of those guys, if not both, because I'm not playing Scotty Scheffler. I can get both those guys in the lineup. I think that's just another way for me to have upside. So cool with that. A couple other guys I had. Tom Hoagie's ownership's not that crazy. I thought he'd be 30%. So so who had that question? Joe of all trades. Tom Hoagie, I think you just have to play him, right? Great course history. His iron game is, I believe, first on tour in 2024. I wrote that. Yeah, number 1. And he is number 2 in my expected strokes gained approach. So
he is number 2 for me also.
Yep. So, yeah, I'm in on that.
I thought this ownership was going to be 25+%. Every single time I have updated this, it has dropped. And I think maybe that's a little bit too much of that groupthink mentality that keeps coming into play. It's a like I agree. It's a if you told me this was if this is a volatile course at the end of the day, but I don't think that Hoagie is correctly priced. I think he should have been more expensive than this. And at 12%, I think he's probably one of the better values on the board, just across the board there at 12%.
Yeah. The way that I'm building, I can afford his ownership because I think the way
once you cut Scotty, everything opens up for you on it. Like you can start picking out some of these chalkier options in any of these ranges in reality.
For the record, I'm not telling anybody to cut Scotty. I'm just letting you know what I'm doing, and it probably won't work. But
I think if
7K range, dude.
But Nick, I think if you actually want to win one of these large field contests, to me, that's really the only way that you can go from like a roster construction and a game theory perspective of it. If you're actually trying to win in single entry, it's a different answer. We can play Scotty and that's fine. And any of those things, like we're not saying Scotty is a bad pick here. We're not saying that Scotty shouldn't be played. There are contests where Scotty makes a ton of sense. And in those contests, if he's like 60% owned, I would understand. It's just, I think in these large field contests at 30+%, I have worries just from a game theory perspective, not even because of Scotty.
Yeah, 100%. I'm fading him a single entry too. So again, whatever, I'm going all in. But yeah, for MME, like I play MME to finish first or last, and I didn't see myself winning playing Scotty, so he's out. 7K range, dude, I have a ton of headaches. Harris English, I'm like, Keegan Bradley, whatever. JT Poston, probably out. Eric Cole, I don't mind.
I like Cole and Poston.
You like Poston, okay.
I do.
I'm okay with Poston if you like him then. 5%. Cool with that. Adam Scott, yay or nay?
I don't know how many times I can play this guy and get it wrong. I mean, not one
like
time is it ever.
But I like everybody. I like Chris Kirk. If no one's going to play Chris Kirk, I know the market doesn't like Chris Kirk. I like Adam Hadwin, which I know you do too. I think
like Adam Hadwin.
I was very high on him last week. He was my top 20 bet that fell apart. I like Keith Mitchell. But it's like, I don't know. Eventually, I want to absolutely hammer Christian Bezaden out. And I think that this is the move where he's 2% owned and a nice plotters course. And again, iron play is in fantastic form outside of last week. And dude, that's not a course for him at all, especially with that weather too. So I like Bez, but it's like, do I play him to get rid of Keith Mitchell, Adam Hadwin, Chris Kirk, Adam Scott? Like, I don't know who to cut. So 78
of that list,
73.
I would cut.
As of now, I believe I was cutting Scott. I believe I'm going to cut Ricky.
I am completely out on Ricky.
Okay. I will be out on Ricky. EVR, I'm seeing 5%. I thought he'd be 10. I think I'm going to be out on EVR.
I agree.
And then Griot, I like, but if he's going to be close to 10%, I'm seeing 9. What do you see for Griot?
8.
Fuck him then. He's out.
Yeah.
Sorry, Griot, if you're listening. Probably should be on the range right now, but I did take Griot out. Nice. All right. I'm a little contrarian guy, and I didn't even know it. All right, Ricky's out. So my 7K player pool right now is Jake Knapp, just because I see like 1% now, and I'll bet on talent all day. I don't think it's a good course for him, but I like his swing too. It's so long and impossible for me to recreate when I try to in the garage. But Alex Noren, I know you and I have great history of that blowing up in our face. Bez, I love. Keith Mitchell, I think, safe. Adam Scott, I do have in. I think I'll take him out. Eric Cole, Hoagie, Harmon. So
I think you hit on every single person that is in my player pool currently.
Wonderful.
I don't think there's anybody else that you. I think Jaeger would be the other one that is worth considering. Good upside numbers in my model. I like where the ownership is sitting for me right now. He would be the other name that I would throw into the mix there. But
the German Hammer, I love playing him, and now everybody loves playing him. So I've kind of been the other
What ownership
way.
do you see right now?
2, so there's no reason not to play him. Like if I just go 4%, because like when they get down below 5%, I like to go 2x the field minimum. All right, I'll put Jaeger in. What are we doing with Nikolai Højgaard? Is he broken right now? Because that dude has a ton of upside when I run it for long term, but when I go recent, no bueno.
I love Højgaard. He was. But no, wait. Let me finish the statement, Nick. I love Højgaard's talent. I don't think he is playable right now with his current state of his game. Like players like him and Justin Rose and some of these names are just so off with their performances.
Ricky
is like the prime example of that. I just think they're unplayable. Like there's other ways to create leverage. Well, not going with those. So Jaeger would be one of those examples. Bezadenhout would be another example. Jake Knapp really wasn't that bad last week if you take away his 12.
Yeah, it's the same as what Roberto and I were talking about with Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah.
Like it says he lost 3 strokes approach or whatever. He lost 5 on 1 hole because he went 10 cup, and we've all went 10 cup before. Alex Noren, yes, that is Spencer and I's father is Alex Noren, and he's probably old enough to have conceived us at the age of 18. So, which is I don't know what's legal in Sweden to conceive a child, but I don't know if there's even legalities. I don't know. We're getting on a rant, but okay. So you talk about recent form and playing them. That's what scared me about JT Poston. Yeah, I think I could be okay not playing JT Poston.
I guess the thing I liked about Poston, and maybe this is an incorrect assessment of the situation. So last week there were 3 players, I guess, for me, if we're talking specifically inside of the betting market, that I thought were the most, or maybe Minwoo wouldn't exactly make it in the betting market. If you added him for DFS, he would. But yes. I thought Poston and Brian Harmon were the 2 most mispriced players in a bad way on the betting board last week. That's why Harmon's performance was even more enticing to me. He gains 5.6 strokes with his approach game. He comes in 12th place at a venue that I did not find any reason that he should find success. I know Poston came in 55th place. That's not necessarily something that's great. He did move backwards on the leaderboard over the weekend, and maybe that's where the bad form comes into play. But that was not a course for him that I would expect him to have success. And when we look at his long-term duration of courses he would play, he seems to pick the courses that benefit him the most. And he now, with this elevated schedule that he has to take on, is playing a lot of courses that don't necessarily fit his game. I do think the players, if the form can kind of return to where it was at very little ownership, I think he's very, very hit and miss this week. I think he has a lot of miscut potential, but I also think he can pop better than a lot of these other names. Like Eric Cole would be a very similar answer for that.
So you like Eric Cole more or Poston more? I could play both, I guess, technically, because I could just go 6% minimum exposure in all these guys and hope one of them's a runner.
It's a tough question. I think they're very similar to one another. I would say any of those guys that we've talked about are kind of in the same mix there.
Okay.
Noren included. I mean, like all these guys make a lot of sense. Bezadenhout, like these are all players that I want in my player pool.
Right on. Yeah, Bez, I think is going to be like I do get crazy aggressive on some players. I think if Bez is 2%, I will probably go to 15-ish.
Yeah.
And have 7.5 times exposure or whatever that math is. All right. Below 7K, we're out on Justin Rose. We talked about him. Cameron Davis, 7%. Like any of these guys in the 7K range that are low 7s and 6s that get to like above 10, I'm just out. So I know I did bet Cameron Davis 100-1. I think one day he is going to destroy elevated events and fifth majors like the Players. I think it is a good course for him. We've been on Cam Davis club down Cam. We've called him like 3 years ago. And I think we're on to something. The irons are peaking. Is that a stupid fade or is that okay? I will pull up the market on Cameron Davis. I see a massive favorite to Kurt Kitayama, which means nothing to me. I see even money on Pinnacle to Keith Mitchell, which intrigues me. Massive favorite to Luke List. And 10-cent dog to Chris Kirk. 10-cent dog to Denny McCarthy. Oh, I'm out on Denny McCarthy, by the way.
I am also. I think
Fuck.
Davis.
Do I play
a lot
Cam
of these.
Davis in?
I think Davis a lot of these weeks always possesses intriguing upside. That's kind of his ace in the hole that he can pull out at any moment. He also has a lower floor than
that's the thing.
Most of these guys that we're talking about.
Not a great scrambler.
I'm at 8% down in this range. I'm probably out. If this was a situation where he was like 2% owned, I think you have a different discussion because then you can actually take a little bit more of that risk on without having to be overweight into an area that you wouldn't want to be. And to me, the Keith Mitchells and any of the other names that we've talked about that we just keep mentioning over and over again, these are much higher floor players with 2-3% ownership in all these spots.
Yeah. And honestly, if I had to like gun ahead, I'm fine saying that Alex Noren, Bez is $400 more, so I won't put him in the conversation. I'd rather have more exposure to Noren, Jaeger, and Jake Knapp all at 2% each. And honestly, Nick Taylor, 6,900. I'm surprised his ownership's below 5%. I thought he'd be chalk. And I don't hate Bo Hostler. I know the market hates Bo Hostler. I'm okay with Bo Hostler. Anything to get off Doug Gim chalk, so I will play Bo Hostler for that reason. But yeah, so I'm out on Gim. I don't think we need to talk about the Gim Reaper at all, do we?
I don't have anything to say. I actually think if you're going to play chalk down here, I do think there's one name that's kind of worth considering.
Austin Eckroat.
Aaron Rye.
Fuck, dude. 20% Aaron Rye.
If he's 20%, I don't have it as high as you do.
I see 19.1.
Okay.
Up another sort. Dude, no way. What has Aaron Rye ever done? He's going to hit every fairway and finish T47. 20% of the field can fucking have it.
At 20%, though, really, if you're anybody, I'm pretty much out on that total. So, scratch that. I still don't know if he gets that high just because, I have it closer to where David has it.
Dave says 11. I have an aggregate that is uploaded as of an hour ago, right before we started, and I see 19. And I trust this source.
I feel like I'm always a little bit low on some of these ownerships where they're chalk. I think he's fine at 11. I am at 19. I am out.
At 15, I'm out. We don't play punt chalk. It's rule number 17 or whatever Steve says in Discord at Win Daily, which definitely check it out. I believe we're giving free trials or whatever, and you could hammer at us all day. Alex Noren, go collect. Let's go. Top 42, the caddy. This guy's speaking my language. The books just took away top 40s, though, and we feared this in the offseason with all the elevated events that, my most profitable market was top 40s, and now I'm, pushing myself to top 20s and just getting my ass handed to me. Hey-go season, we will touch on that. I'm in. Nick Taylor, though, I think extremely safe, has great iron form, good putter, good scrambler, much higher upside than Denny McCarthy.
Well, that might be where some of this ownership distribution that you have versus where I have changed. Because I have Nick Taylor slightly higher than you do. I mean, I still think he's in a playable range of where he's at, but maybe that's where I'm a little bit lower on Rye's ownership. And I don't know. I mean, I guess my answer to that would be figure out what sources you trust, keep checking throughout the night. If that number looks like it's trending towards 15 plus, I agree with you, Nick. I would be out.
It could be 10% for Aaron Rye. I'm fucking out. What has Aaron Rye ever done?
I think at 10%.
People are talking themselves into playing Doug Gim and Aaron Rye and pairing it with Scotty Scheffler. Good fucking luck.
Well, I think that's the bad way that you go about it. I think if you're playing those three and that's what everybody's going to do, it's Scotty and all these random $6,000 golfers that have all the ownership, like Pavon and all these names that are just continuously getting thrown into the mix.
Brendan Todd.
I
Hard pass.
like Brendan Todd.
That is your funeral. What is Brendan Todd going to do? Him and Aaron Roy could share T47 together. I hope they get lunch after the round. What is Brendan Todd going to do?
Brendan Todd has been good this year.
He's okay. Let me pull him up. What has he actually done, though? No, hold on. Technical difficulties here. We did not say this would be a professional show. T6 at Arnold Palmer. T22. Dude, Brendan Todd, I'm sorry, buddy. If the Todd family's listening, I've been shitting on you. This guy's a walking top 30 in good fields.
Yeah.
Fuck. Brendan Todd. Great scrambler. He's top 5 in my expected strokes gained scrambling. Does the soft conditions in his little short porch game like hurt him a little bit?
Maybe. I mean, I think you could make that argument very soundly.
What do you see for ownership on Brendan Todd? Like, he's a cut maker. So at this price, we're probably looking for cut makers. So T47 isn't a slap in the face to all those that do like Aaron Rye. Like, I guess he's getting the job done for you.
I have him at 6.5%.
Okay. I don't hate it.
Do we have
I hate Aaron Rye. Not as a guy.
I hate Aaron Rye.
Seems like a nice dude.
But,
cool story.
Do we have anybody that is low owned in the $6,000 range that we like?
Yes.
I have a couple also.
So I don't mind Kurt Kitayama. Last week I faded. I know he was very popular winning there the year before, which I believe we had at Bettor Golf, which is pretty cool. But good scrambler. But Kurt Kitayama was like a dog to Taylor Moore last week, if I saw it. Like, he was a dog to many, many people. That scared me. Billy Horschel, I'm going to be out. I've heard too many people mention his name. I see 4% ownership.
Yeah.
I'm good on that. I know where's he from? Like Gainesville area or Ponte Verde, honestly, maybe. But big Florida guy. I'm okay with not playing Billy Horschel. Matthew Pavone, I think I'm out. So the guys I do like Bo.
I like Bo also. I think
do you find it? Sorry, I keep cutting you off. This is what a live show does, though. And I think I cut you off when we record, too. So it's like,
I mean, it's all part of the course right now.
Yeah, fuck it. But actually, Bo, the books are moving in his favor. I was like, he's been like a sizable favorite to all the mid upper range all season long at every tournament. And then when I opened up matchups like Monday night, Tuesday morning, he was like a sizable dog to most people. He was a big dog to EVR at Pinnacle, I believe, which now has flipped in his favor, pretty much to a coin flip. But
we've pretty much gotten the same answer over and over again from Hostler this year. Courses where he doesn't really have the history that you would want to see. This is maybe not the corollary type of a course from past years that you can even pull from to begin with, but
different player.
And that's where I'm going with it, is every single time he's gotten these courses where he hasn't produced results in the past, across the board, he's providing top 40 finishes over and over again. So I think that his skill set was starting to trend towards the end of 2023. It's continued now into 2024. I'm really intrigued with players like him and Jaeger to see if they can really then take that next step even from where they're at right now, because those are two of the more talented guys every single time I run a model. So I think Hostler's intriguing. I guess for me, the two names, if we're trying to just get super minimal ownership and mention some of these players, I kind of like Maverick McNeely, and I never play Maverick McNeely.
0% now.
Yeah. I mean, he is just off everybody's radar, but inside the top 50 of my model, I thought that was interesting. And then the other player that I at least want to mention, Ben Griffin.
Ben Griffin. Okay. I did not like Ben Griffin. I liked Ben Martin, which also is, who is Ben Martin? Mel Gibson's character in The Patriot. So that should mean something. I love that movie. Maverick McNeely, great scrambler, 0% owned. Okay, I'll put Mav back in the player pool. I see Lucas Glover going up to 7-8%. What are your thoughts on him?
I have him 7 or 8%. I will be out.
I know David. I gave Ryan Fox a long look. I know David's on. Let's see. We got David's picture right here. Horschel, Todd, Nick Taylor, fucking Todd. God damn it. All right, I'll put him in for everybody. I'm out on Billy. Eckroat love, Putnam the market loves. I'm fine with Putnam. I think Putnam is a rich man's version of Brendan Todd.
Yeah.
Ryan Fox I looked at, and I decided no. Do you have any thoughts on Ryan Fox?
I think for the price tag and the upside ability that he does possess,
it's the upside. Upside.
I think there is absolutely no floor with him, but I love his short iron proximity. He's going to have to be better in certain areas of the market. I mean, he has not scored on par fives well this year, and I think that's been his biggest undoing, but this was probably a golfer, if we would have gotten better performances from him,
be 7,500.
Exactly. I mean, this is a mid $7,000 golfer with a little bit better form.
Ben Griffin. All right, Ryan Fox inside the player pool. Right now, I currently have 60 players. I need to get that to like 45. But for the sake of everybody's time, we'll keep on moving. All right, so the guy I do like, back to the question 10 minutes later. I love Rio.
Yeah.
6,200, not going to miss a fairway. Has peaked in iron play a couple weeks this season, recently, like within the last 6 weeks. Great scrambler for a very small sample size. Again, to anybody listening, I'm not telling you this guy's a world beater, but I like Rio more than I like Ryan Fox.
Well, I'll say this, Nick, and maybe they're similar
Davis Thompson
answers with the ownership that we have here. But if you look at Rio versus Rye, like if Rye is actually 15% plus in ownership, I don't think there's a massive difference between Rio and Rye. Like I think Rio's a nice pivot away from that.
Yep. What about Akshay?
What has happened to Akshay recently?
I don't know, but he's always everybody's favorite. So like, I wouldn't mind hopping in when everybody hopped out, but his game kind of seems broken. He's really good at Farmers, but after that, then he left California.
Maybe that's the problem. Love the green and regulation percentages and some of the ball striking ability that he possesses. Like he's inside of the top 20 of my model when I combine driving and approach play.
Let me see his putting expectation for me on bent grass. Or Bermuda, I'm sorry. Bent grass is what I play in Illinois. Love bent grass, by the way. If the PGA wants to get more courses with, that'd be cool. Not great and a terrible scrambler. I think I'm going to be out on him.
It is a weird surface here, though, with the overseeding that they have. I mean, I don't know if that makes it better or worse for him. Like, I would say this is probably more. I mean, it's like the Poa Trivialis type of builds to it, where you get all this extra overseeding.
Thoughts on Andrew Novak in fantastic form? I thought he'd be 10% owned. I'm seeing 2.
I see 4. That's lower owned than I thought he was going to be.
Bobby Mack. You're a Bobby Mack guy. Good DK score. No way he misses third miscut. Mr. Awaken Up. Yeah, if you guys got questions, fire away. But Spencer is the Bobby Mack guy. He plays him all the time, and I try to talk him off of it. So I did have Bobby in my player pool in the morning. I took him out.
He's out for me right now, too. I think one of the things that he loses...
He is in my player pool. Should I get him out? I'd rather have Higo. And
I would also, I think one of my biggest concerns with McIntyre is I love his long iron proximity, and I think he loses a great deal of that here.
Okay, good answer. I'm out with Bobby Mack. Who else? Do you have any love for Davis Thompson? The market hates him.
My model always has love for Davis Thompson.
He's a good golfer.
I would agree with you. I mean, I always think his ball striking is as elite as it can get, and then you just never really see the results as high end as you would want. Like Phoenix for him is kind of the perfect course. Like we talked about that on Better Golf, and he came in 15th, and I think that's a great result.
That was you would be a huge reason I got second in that GPP was 1% Davis Thompson, and that was like our take a stance guy. I think that's going to be Rio for me this week.
Yeah, I
think Bez, but he's gained strokes approach in 6 straight events. He can hit fairways and club down spots.
Good par 5 scorer.
And his short wedges, so like I mean, it's a wedge if it's under 120 for all these PGA guys for the most part. Maybe not Ches Reavie, but everybody else, like that looks great for him.
I think here's the answer with Davis Thompson, and I think that this is at least an easy way to explain it to yourself if you want to play him. There is a reason he's hit and miss in spots. If we want to talk about matchups, like he's probably not the greatest matchup golfer to try to bet against somebody else. I think that when he implodes really badly. But I think for the price tag and the ceiling that he possesses, it's probably a lot larger than a lot of these other guys that we're talking about. Like he's in that mix with the Foxes and Rio, and if you want to say,
I
like McNeely, but
I think he's a what is the word I'm looking? A middle class version. I'm not going to say a poor man, but a middle class version of Cameron Davis.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right, let's trademark that whole saying. K.H. Lee spiked last week, has been dog shit for, I don't know, half a year, maybe more.
Probably out. I mean, I would rather.
He was so good at PGA National. It's TPC Elite, which we invented on the show, by the way. But
full credit to you on that. That has been something that has run rampant in the space since then. But
any love for KH, or is that just bad?
Yeah, probably out. I think the problem is
he's like the Ricky version, broken.
Kind of. Like once we get into this $5,000 section, it is just gross.
All right, here are the guys in my player pool, and then we'll move on to a couple of questions I see lingering here, and then we'll get out. Obviously, I'm playing Chan Kim. He's probably going to top 5. So we don't need to talk about him. Seamus, Mark Hubbard, Higo, which someone else in here was I think we're on Higo. Roberto talked about him on Action being injured for most of the fall swing and then showing some recent form. I think he was up on first or second on Thursday at Puerto Rico, which means nothing, but I do like that his iron spiked at PGA National. I think he's got high upside. Same rider. I do have Grayson Sig. I don't know why I play him. I think he's because of Mizuno guy, and I like Mizuno golf clubs, but good iron player. I can't quit this guy, and I need to. Matt Wallace is in my player pool. Jimmy Stagner, only because of he's starting to score, and the recovery and scrambling, which I believe your models seem to agree with as well. Yeah. And then Lee Hodges. But I mean, all these guys are like 2% owned at most, and I will have 3% to 4% exposure and probably cap it at like 6 on the optimizer. So it's I think they'll be just mixing around because, again, I want more 9K range guys like we talked about earlier in the show, which I think is kind of the theme of our card this week is play more than 9K guys for us personally to get different builds than just Scotty and mid-tier guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way that you can definitely get unique and different. I will say with Higo, and I don't know, this is some information I have never said before about.
We're going to win. Look at that.
Yeah.
He just won. I can't beat him.
I went on a date a while back with somebody who was doing physical therapy on Higo's wrist. And
you had inside information this whole time and withheld?
Yeah. And she said that he was doing great in his recovery, but then this was before, this was a long time ago. And then he withdrew at the Zozo because of the wrist. So I don't know. I don't have current information that's probably actually usable in this situation.
Can you call her real quick live on air? Or did it not end well?
Yeah, it didn't end well.
Well, get her on a group text. See what she says about Higo. But at 0%, I'm okay with.
I think Higo's intriguing here. He had a lot of upside numbers in my model.
Yeah, you have withheld from us. She was doing physical therapy on Higo's wrist, so yeah.
Whatever she's doing, she did a bad job because it went downhill at the Zozo.
Yeah, maybe she should be a yoga instructor or something if PT's not working out for a professional golfer. Because that's like a client you hang your hat on if he gets right and starts winning, right? That's like finding I don't know. Whoever found Anthony Lynn, right? His agent probably had a great little run after Anthony Lynn. Is that his name? Anthony Lynn, the Lynn Sanity guy?
Oh, Jeremy Lynn?
Jeremy Lin, dude. See, that's how much I know about the fucking NBA. God damn. I'm sorry, guys. We need to. I need to check the show notes prior to going on here. I'm just butchering it. Sorry, Anthony. I heard he's a DFS player now, so he probably is tuned in. But other than that, any final thoughts? We had a question. Matsuyama, my answer was probably just too expensive, and something about it. Like, obviously, Spencer and I like to be as numbers backed as possible, but I certainly play DFS with my heart a little bit, and I hate the injury scare. It's happened a couple times. I know Spencer, we kind of bailed last minute at the Memorial 2 years ago, and he didn't get hurt then, but then he got the marker on his driver or whatever, and he was like 20% owned, and both our models loved him, and we got out. But like, I don't know, something about him just always scares me that something's going to happen, and I shouldn't feel that way, but I do. So do you have any other thoughts on Matsuyama other than probably too expensive for the range?
I think he's probably
he's a great player.
I think he's a great player, and I think there's so much to like about his game. I just think he's probably, even at the price tag, like, I think he's too much ownership around him.
Respect. All right. Give me I got to do this just like our NFL show. Favorite GPP play 9K and above. I'll let you have it, Max Homa, right?
It's Max Homa or Burns. I'll go with Max Homa.
Dude, I think I'm drinking the Will Z Kool-Aid. If he's gaining strokes around the green, the ball striking is too good. I'm going to go with Will Zalatoris just because I think he has so much win equity, and he's only in the 9K range. I know it's upper 9K. I will go with Will Zalatoris. I want to say Ludwig, but again, I will that to existence, but like my data on Ludwig is just so new that I don't trust it. And that's how the field is too. Like, he's like 12 to 15% ownership range. They're like, he's really good, but like, is he really good? I know he's really good, but like, should he be this expensive? Should he be right by Jordan Spieth, Morikawa, Max Homa?
I think there's an argument to be made. Maybe not here specifically at TPC Sawgrass, just because it's his first time playing it, but I think there's
7th at the Junior Players. We just got that.
I think there's an argument to be made that he should be even more expensive than this, like closer into that Zalatoris range.
Then that's going to be my guy. That feels better than Will Zalatoris. I'm going to go with Ludwig. I'm going to hammer him in MME and hope it works out. But this dude's big win is coming. I don't know when. I hope Sunday. Actually, I hope last week would have been cooler because he was on my card. All right. Favorite GPP play. Let's go 8,000 to 9K, just in that range, because I know the 7K range is multiple different options, so I don't want to group them together. You go first.
I guess I'm going to go with, this is a very chalky choice, and this is against where you are going to be, Nick, but I think Russell Henley is good chalk this week.
Russell Henley was going to be my answer, actually. So I will go to Tony Finau.
Yeah.
That's like, I want to believe in something like Minwoo. I really want to believe in him. I'm going to play him, but I don't think I could like plant my flag on his name. Like, I want to play Fitz. Same thing. I think he's kind of in a disastrous form. 8K and below, or I guess 7K to 7,900. One guy, GPP. Like, this obviously isn't a combined lineup because we're getting super different on all these guys besides Russ. But 7K, staple guy in tournaments if you had to.
I'm going to go with Adam Hadwin.
Ooh. I'm going to give two answers because there's no rules. It's our show.
I would like to also give Brian Harman.
Okay. All right. You just gave Brian Harman. I'm going to go with Christian Bezadenhout. And I just want to check the market real quick. Big favorite to Ricky. Yeah, even to Keith Mitchell, to me, that's like, all right. I know everybody's numbers like Keith Mitchell. Mitchell's in good form. Good Bermuda player, too. I like Bez. I really like Noren, too, but I'm going to go with Bez. 2% Bez. Yeah, give me that.
Bez against Fowler. I think that's an interesting head-to-head for everybody to consider.
Which is, I bet 365, right?
Yes.
Nice. Minus 120. You still sign off on that?
Yeah, I think he's. Here's the slight problem with the play. If there's anything to look into that's wrong, like it didn't quite reach that 3% threshold that I normally need to recommend a play. I just think that there are certain metrics in Ricky's game, whether that be when I ran it specifically for TPC Sawgrass or when I just looked in the profile in general there, that he might actually be a little bit worse than my model even believes. And I think on
Wow.
the counterpoint of that argument, Bezadenhout might not be getting the full effect of what we have seen with some of this recent iron play over the past couple of months.
I love it. I'm with you. All right, 6K and above, one GPP guy, and I want to say Ekro, but his ownership's going to be pretty high. Like I just believe in him. He doesn't miss a fairway either, and just a smooth striker. But I'll go first on this one. I'm going to go with Rio.
I think there's a lot of good chalk in this range, which is a weird answer to give.
Besides Aaron Rye.
Yeah, 19% I will be out on that. But like I think Brendan Todd, Nick Taylor, I think Maverick McNeely as a pivot is very intriguing. I am going to say I'll give two. I guess I just won't play by the rules at all in any of these sections.
Fuck
But
it. Fire away.
I'll say Maverick McNeely and Ben Griffin.
Ben Griffin. What am I missing with him?
Any of the proximity numbers are always going to hate him. I understand that factor, but he was a big climber for me from that range I was looking for from 0 to 150. Very steady across the board in any of those bogey avoidance totals. Like inside of the top 25, almost across the board in any of those key metrics. 6th overall in this field in scrambling. Inside the top 35 for weighted scoring. Just think he was kind of good in all the ranges I was looking for. So as like a $6,000 golfer, he's 34th in, or 33rd, sorry, in projected par 3 scoring. He is 38th in projected par 4 scoring, and he is about 50th in projected par 5 scoring. So just 3 areas of the build there where I was able to get a top 50 golfer in projected scoring for a $6,000 price tag.
1% owned.
Yeah, no ownership, which makes it even more enticing.
And only $100 more than the washed Webb Simpson, who did find a way to get T30. All right, below 6K, one guy or two if you need to, but the whole world's saying two, so fuck it, let's go with one.
I mean, I do want to say that there's only one player in this section that has won this tournament in the last 5 years.
And that would be
Webb.
Yeah, that would be Webb. Webb. I don't like any of these guys, honestly.
I don't either.
Besides Chan, but that's a fanboy play. I do think that this is a decent course for him if he's actually starting to make putts, but I'd rather him be able to hit it a little bit longer.
I'll go with Mark Hubbard.
Hubbs, okay. That's a safe pick.
Yeah, I think for safety, I think if you're shooting for a little bit more, maybe Higo. Like I can kind of sign off on that Higo play. I think he's intriguing here. Outside of that, and Chan, I'm also okay with Chan. Like my model liked him fine, but outside
do you hate Sam Ryder?
Big upside numbers in my model. Like he was the biggest upside player that I had in the entire $5,000 range. I just never seem to get him right when I play him.
I will go with Chan Kim. I think he's just here to stay on the PGA Tour and be a middle of the packer, which at 5,800, middle of the packer would be just fine. But other than that, go ahead.
I'm not even saying that the price is wrong. I think he should be down in this section. Wild what we have seen from Thomas Dietrich after really competing earlier in this year.
I just don't see. I mean, his game, his ball striking is just kind of broken too. I know we played him at AT&T Pebble Beach, and even then, like I feel like we got lucky.
Yeah, I don't think the price is wrong. I mean, that's what's so crazy about it, because this is a guy that my model usually likes, but even my model couldn't necessarily find a ton of reason to play him. So
David likes Zach Blair. Any thoughts on Zach Blair? I don't think I would ever. Just his name sounds like someone I wouldn't play.
I don't have massive thoughts one way or another with it. I think he's a great around the green player.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, other than that, dude, I think we had a great turnout, which I also really appreciate. So thank you guys all for tuning. I will still upload this to the podcast channel for those that had to tune in to now, but seems like every minute we were growing an audience. So it's like, all right, let's just keep blabbering about Mel Gibson's The Patriot, which is a great movie, by the way. If you guys have not seen it, I would see it. David, I don't know if you've seen it. It is American history. Go check out Mel Gibson's The Patriot and Ben Martin, lead character. This is a good question. Which, oh shit, what did I do? I did full screen. Here we go. Which narrative would be more epic? Adam Scott 20th anniversary. That's wild to even think about. Or Lowry. I think Lowry, dude. If Lowry wins on St. Patty's Day, because it's very rare that St. Patty's Day is on. I'm out of the Chicago area, and my wife's Southside Irish girl, so we are going to the Southside Irish Parade, which I haven't been to since I was like 24, because that's what type of day it is. It's just like, you know, a long day with the Irish folks. Love them. But if he wins, like, Southside Chicago is going to go nuts. I'm sure, like, all these Irish neighborhoods or whatever throughout the country that are celebrating very, very loosely and freely on Sunday. I think that'd be more epic of a narrative there.
I'll go with Adam Scott just to keep with the UNLV theme. If I get the answer and the potential to pick a UNLV golfer, I will go with that. But I mean, I guess we'll take everybody out of here. Before we get out of here, Nick, give me the winner of this golf tournament.
Ludwig.
I like it. I will say Max Homa.
Respect. All right. Thank you guys so much. Retweet whatever on Twitter. Follow us at Bettor Golf Pod. All of our normal handles, I believe, are right here. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and good luck this week. And pray for me in the Scotty fade.
Yeah, good luck, everybody.